Okay, I want to explain to you now what that tunnel means and those glowing eyes and things of the sort, right? So now we're back to 2001 Snake Odyssey. Roaring of the tiger, right? Or the leopard, right? Uh, the predator. You know how he bounced or pounced on the monkey that was all by itself? There's something the prophet says, that the wolf eats the outlier sheep or the straggler sheep. He doesn't go, a wolf would not jump into the middle of the flock of sheep and grab one. It usually looks for the ones that are uh, uh, outside there on their own, right? And that was the meaning of it. But here, I guess that this was here, I guess it was the Sphinx, and that's the pyramid. Well, like I said, I still stand by that theory, but now there's something else I know about, and that here, as you can see, there is a cave in that pyramid. And sure enough, the pyramid had cave in it. And here, that may be the Sphinx, but the Sphinx illustration is taken to be the illustration of supernatural being, right? And that's what it is. But here, what they mean by it, Kubrick, and later I will show you in a little bit, give me a second on that. That is some kind of a supernatural being, right? And that's what it is. What they are alluding to is the story of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? May peace be upon him. When he was young, before his mission, he used to go up into the mountains, not into a real mountain. There's a mountain that overlooked Mecca, right? Or Mecca. And there's what they call a cave in it. Now, in the West, it's translated as a cave. Cave is an Arabic word, comes from kahf. Kahf is in the Quran, right? And there's a cave. And then he used to worship there and worship God and ponder and so on. He used to go sometimes like up to 3 days at a time. And they say that's where he, either he, that supposedly, according to them, evil God, that possessed him or something, that's what they think. Or that Allah or the God of Abraham, descended into him or dressed him up or something. That's what they mean by that here, is that there's the 4-3, that's for Allah, or Allah, right? And then there's that Sphinx or that supernatural being, right? And then that's where Muhammad was, or Muhammad when he emerged, things of the sort, right? Number one, it's not a cave. It is a depression, right? Ghar, it's not kahf or cave. It's gar, right? Gar is a small depression. What was it like? And it's still there. It's called Ghar Hira, right? Hira, and it's really a shelter. Really, it's a small cavity in the mountain, and it's a shelter, really. Now you may say, oh yeah, well, what was he doing there at night or 3 days in the time? And you know what? Maybe I can't answer that for you. There are two things I can say. One, why would any one of you want to go hiking in the mountains alone for a month or 2 weeks or a week? Or two, why would you want to be alone? Sometimes they advise you of taking some time and being alone. Three, he was being prepared for a mission of history of humanity. So in his head, God, began to drive him there, in preparation. And sure enough, that's where the Archangel Gabriel came and talked to him. Maybe that's who? Archangel Gabriel, right? Or Jibreel, right? So I'm going to freeze it because that's going to show up in a little bit. So that's what it is. The tunnel here, that cave looks like a tunnel, and the same gesture happens in the movie Duel as well, when that truck, with two bright glowing eyes, emerges from the tunnel, and they darken it a little bit afterwards. It's very similar here, but I will show you in a little bit. Give me a second. Okay, so here I'm going to show you a scene. This is the movie Aliens. That's when Sigourney Weaver is floating in space for 57 years, and then by sheer luck, she was found by a cargo ship or spaceship or something, and then she gets convinced that there is a colony on this planet, and that she needs to go because they lost communications and so on. So that's the one, Aliens. that's where that little girl nude is, right? She finds the survivor, the only survivor to be nude, right? Uh, uh, New type or new thing, I don't know, new type maybe, but I'm gonna show you something here. So here you will see in the background, here in the background, you'll see the same thing. It's like a tiger, it's like a lion, it's like the Sphinx, right? Same, almost same exact figure and carving as that in 2001 Space Odyssey, you know, when he shows you the pyramid and so on. And now they're entering that supposed that cave, as I explained it a little earlier. Uh, well, what they mean by that is prying open the world of Islam, right? You know, from within and then, right? The one that brought science and lifted up education and so on. But there you can see it. It's very obvious. Right there in the background here. Right there. Same creature, right? Now, before we depart this, I'm going to give you a couple of hints here. The spaceship in the Alien movie, Alien and Aliens and so on, it's like a horseshoe, right? Uh, it looked to me like it is a crescent moon, right? I'm not sure, but I think that's what the design is all about. Is that this crescent moon? And the other thing I wanted to tell you about this movie Aliens, where Newt, the little girl, survived, that cute little girl, you know, and she keeps screaming, you know, she's like driven me nuts. Uh, uh, she drove me crazy. I hope she doesn't scream anymore. So her real name is Rebecca Jordan. Rebecca, I think, is the wife, one of the wives of Jacob, right? And Jordan is Jordan, the Jordan River, right? That's just the only one clue. I'm not going to make commentary on aliens, really, but there are many clues there, but they all center and revolve and orbit the same concept, and that's that Muhammad and Islam, science and knowledge and revenge and evil and good, and, you know, as they imagination do invent. So Newt actually, or Rebecca Jordan, is really the state of Israel. Whenever they show you a little girl like that in distress that needs help, that survived, right? That's the state of Israel. Here, that's what it means, right? The state of Israel, and that's the surrounding of, you know, like hellacious scene, as if it's from hell or something of the sort. And that's that. So I'm going to freeze it a little bit. I'm going to show you something else. So if you recall, I heard like something about this. I said that in Mad Max movie, there was like as if Rabbi Mel Gibson was wearing like contact lenses, the different color. So it shows in different segments. It shows here, as you can see, or unless that's how his eyes are, right? Depicting the one-eyed monster. And it shows elsewhere. Let me get that for you. And here in this picture as well, as you can see, he's got like, there's something about wearing contact lenses here, or maybe that's what he is, you know, I don't know. Right? Okay. I'm going to show you something else here I missed last time that is significant. So here, he shows you this particular entity or being or creature, and that's pretty much the same one as Dennis Weaver in the movie Duel, and probably I would say Dave Bowman in the movie 2001 Snake Odessy. But now he's outcast, right? And disliked and shunned, and he's on his own in the desert, right? You know, this is the guy with two different eyes, right? And finally, he almost lost his life while he lays down on the sand dying, right? Due to those people in the sand, like putting him out of commission, right? almost gone, right? Almost gone. Now, out of the blue emerges a tribe who were living in the shadows of society, right? And they rescue him. Uh, and they rescue him and they nourish his religion, which testifies that these religions are really not as long as old as they say it is. Here they mean his dogma, his image, his teachings, and so on. Oh, it's horror, folks. Now, I've seen something. I'm going to make a comment here. One day, I considered conversion to this religion, right? You know, my religion grew thin due to certain personal and family affairs and so on. So wanted to make a discovery of this particular religion in the United States. I'm not going to name the religion, but I'm going to name the city, and you will know where it is. It's in Utah, right? Salt Lake City, Utah. So I went there. I made my way there. I thought I would check things out firsthand. You know, I tried first outside here in Chicago. You know, things weren't like very clear to me. So I thought maybe I go to the source, you know, where things started, and you know, view up close of what's going on and so on. Now, why was I interested in that religion? For a number of reasons. I didn't know what it was first, let's put it this way. But what I knew about it is that they're tightly knitted. You know, they have a very highly knitted society. They're cooperating. They're helping hands. You know, and they take care of the weak and. Now I went there and stayed like about 3 months, and I visited their main edifice, right? And what I saw there was not so obvious to me here or elsewhere. True, there is a community, sense of community, you know, and you love who they are, and all that stuff, and you appreciate it, right? And mainly at that point, that's basically what I was looking for. You know, the tenets of the religion itself may or may not matter, because if Islam is false, then everything else, believe me. Because I am very familiar with that gigantic edifice of knowledge, of jurisprudence, of thinking, of religion, but then I was shaken outside of my compound, you know, like I basically became something like this, right? Mel Gibson here, you know, wandering and then falling down and so on. So that's why I considered that. But then when I went to Utah, I began to discover the innards or the fundamentals of that religion is pretty much of what I was running away from, right? Really, the thing that I lived near or within or around, you know, since I was young, and I didn't know, right? And suddenly all things became clear, and you know, the horror of it and so on. So when I moved there, I thought, you know, I'd make my way there. Not just that, I thought, here's what I thought. I thought if the religion's tenets, and I read their books, right? You know, like didn't really find much there. I thought I would write an entire new religion for them, right? If they're a good community, if they're like humanistic, if they're welcoming and so on. But then, like I said, I found that the links, the hidden links were much deeper and nothing you can tear down or avoid or, you know, things of the sort. But when I was at the temple, I noticed a couple of things, right? Well, in the temple, I noticed one thing. You go downstairs, first when you enter, there is a tabernacle, right? I didn't like that. Why? Because is that where they worship the bull and stuff like that? And that's all to me. I thought this was something new, right? You know. So, and I saw some things that are indicative of, you know, the tribes and so on. So I began to be a little bit guarded. But then, in that visitor center, you go upstairs. There's a dome, right? You go upstairs, and there's really nobody there. When I went upstairs, I was the only one, and there was like Jesus standing on a pedestal, and that denotes God. You know, they're hiding that, and nobody up there, right? Nobody up there. But when you go downstairs, you see a guy, something similar to this. You know, like skin and bone, haggard, long hair, black hair, right? And so on and so on. And then he's being held by what looked like Samaritan Jews, people or mannequins, right? Statues or mannequins. He's laying down and they're helping out him up. And they look like Samaritan Jews. The dress and the fez, and, the sash and so on. To me, that was unmistakable. To me, that actually cracked open all the meaning of that religion, right? It's really that figure in here, the one that's supposedly Satan, right? And then he was expelled and done wrong and all that, all that bullshit, right? These are stories. And then he was revived by the Jews. Basically, that's who they are. That's who they are, right? And I began to see that like time and again, and now that wasn't like that. Basically, blocked me a little bit from moving forward, right? Because I also saw that there's some kind of initiation rites and so on. I don't subscribe to secret initiation rites. As far as I'm concerned, if they're secret, there's something that they're hiding, right? Now, I'm not saying everything should not be secret, right? Sometimes when you're too weak, when you're prosecuted, and maybe you should be guarded, like protect yourself from harm, from nature. That's why we live in houses, right? To protect ourselves from the innocent. However, one day I decided to take a walk, and I walked to a place or a quarter of the city called the Rio Grande. There was some kind of a mall there, and oh boy, so many homeless people, and they're just sitting like down and so on. And then that was very vivid. I still recall that very vivid. There was a woman there I thought I recognized, but I really never talked to. Or most likely she looked like someone I know, a Palestinian woman I knew in Houston, right? A girl, right? I thought, that's what I thought, but I mean, maybe I was wrong. So I didn't talk to her, and she was sitting among those homeless people. A Christian woman, to be precise, right? Not a Muslim, a Palestinian Christian. And then before I decided to really not move forward with that, even though it's a great community and so on. I decided not to go with that. So one day I drove up, and there are hills, right? You go up north of Salt Lake City, north of the capital, and so on, and you go. I drove, between the houses in the hills. Sure enough, people dressed like white shirt and black pants, and that's usually Hasidic people dressed in, right? Very nice houses. I heard that the church's budget is like in the billions, and to me it was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're humans and you leave those people here like sleeping on the street. How much does it cost, right? And they're like in the parks and so on. That was a plague, right? I saw it, and it's sad. This is your city, and you allow that to happen. Hell, if you got like budget in the billions, you can designate few millions, build some kind of camp or shelter for them. At least they're humans, right? But that tells you it's a private club. It's really not humanistic. So I basically backed out, even though it was a great prospect. Believe me, what I saw from people, and and I thought, this is home. This is obviously this is going to become my home from here on, and I will start like secreting this intelligence and so on, and making you think, right? Later on, I saw that they are not as free as you think, especially those in the Congress and the Senate. You could clearly see, the orange hats and so on, where they stand and who they are. And I thought at one point I became very convinced that that religion, especially in Salt Lake City, is really superficial, right? It's a facade, if you will. And then I noticed that the PFLK or something of the sort, fundamental LDS, fundamental Latter-day Saints, and they are being fought and so on. I thought maybe I can go there as well. But eventually it proved to be a little bit, time was running, time is always rolling and moving. And, I didn't have time for that anymore. We change with time. So I basically evolved or moved out of that realm of converting to that particular group. It would have been nice, but guess what? It didn't work. But the reason I'm saying this is that that's what I thought. That's what So it's a really a real belief. It's not just a movie, right? It exists there. It is the Jews who came and rescued this particular being, right? But here's something else I want to show you. So as you see, like the bird that usually denotes angel, you know, like here, as you can see, the angel comes, right? And they all ride. See the angel with blue, like whatever that head is and stuff like that. Floating green, that's Islam, you know, that's the country of Islam, right?
Look. It's him.
It's him, right? That's not Jesus. That's not the Messiah of the Jews. That's not the Dajjal or the Mahdi or anybody. I'm sorry, not the Mahdi. That's not the. That's not Moses. That's basically the Antichrist or the Dajjal.
I find it him.
They founded him, finding him.
It's Captain America.
So here I want to show you something that's very eerie.
What's his talk? Yeah, I know what it's like. It's a long shot. Maybe he's burned out. Maybe he's just listening. Walker? Hello? Walker? Maybe he's talking, but we ain't hearing. I think I see his lips like moving. Not with words, that. With Sonic. That thing, I never get a Sonic playing bullshit. He's got Fox X-ray. Can you hear me? Don't Fox X-ray? Come in. Is anybody out there?
There's the fire altar. You know, that's like Zoroaster, or not Zoroaster, Magi's. You know, they have something about the fire, right? They keep it lighting all the time.
Can you ring me, Walker? Don't Fox X-ray? Anybody out there?
Did you hear that noise of the insect behind him? You know, chirping. Hear it again. So, as I explained to you, the word azif, right? Or the sound of demons in the forest, or as if, you know, playing instrument, it's really the same word. But that insect noise, I believe, I may go back and check it, but no, I think I am right. is exactly the same recording that you hear in the Space One Odyssey at the start, you know, like when there's the noise of insects and so on in that Southwest Arabia, right? That's the same noise. I have a feeling they've taken the same recording and used it here. Okay, so now I'm going to conclude this video, but I can tell you this, folks. The imagination and stories and fables they weave around that event in the Gar of Hira, right, or Hira, uh, in the mountains of Mecca and so on. It's not true, folks. I mean, why? Because now here there is a conundrum. There is a what you call a big contradiction. You know, why would someone so evil lift up humanity, science, and knowledge, and faith, and equality, and justice? And I mean, the new world was made by that man and his companions and their followers, right? Uh, Before them, I assure you, there's nothing really. You know, you can ask your deep scholars. Many I notice they don't know. They accept what is as is, right? But why would someone so keen on lifting up knowledge and education and so on just focus on that man, right, and his car? It just doesn't make sense, right? So they indict themselves here, the Spielberg, you know. They can't repudiate themselves. They contradict their own story here. So there's like an eccentric approach, you know, like to it, you know. They accuse him of being so and so, yet they say he's like lifted up education in the world among all these races. All right, so we're gonna stop this and continue later. I think that's it for today.